The fishing news is brought to you by Navionics, Okuma, Yozori, Evinrude, and the Star Island Yacht Club in Montauk.
Special IGFA Kids Fishing Trip midweek on the bingo here on Raritan Bay. Picking away at short fluke. In fact, we filleted a couple of sea robins in as well, make up for that catch. That was before the storms chased us in off the water. I'm Jim Hutchinson, New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine, getting dry in here at Fisherman's Den this week, where we do have some fishing going on. But I'll tell you, we were looking for some porgies on the bingo as well this week, but a lot of folks have told me the porgy action has been a little bit slow. Some of the reports that we've gathered in the last couple of weeks, a lot of cow-nose rays out there. And again, we're waiting for that fluking to really pick up. Probably the best opportunity to catch fluke right now at the Jersey Shore is up on Raritan Bay, but everything is really tide and wind dependent. You got to keep that in mind. When you got that wind, you get that heave. If things aren't working well, it could slow your bite. We have talked to a couple of people about that. Same can be said for a lot of the party boats working areas like the Rattlesnake or Axel Carlson or any of the reef sites. Of course, a lack of wind also could affect you a little bit. Last week, I was out on a trip out of Cape May, Captain Bob Cope, full ahead sport fishing with some of the guys from Penn, Berkeley, and Tackle Direct. And speaking with Captain Bob, we were out at McCree's Shoal. Had a few keepers, some of those locations like the old grounds where you usually find big fish. Bob said there hasn't been that many big fish out there, but you got to really work at it. Like I said, we didn't have much wind when we were out last Thursday. So too much wind, not enough wind, never can get it right, but it's always worth it. The one thing Bob was talking about is down south especially, the bottom temperatures are pretty cold. Working at about 60 feet of water, you find pretty warm temperatures up top, but down deep, it's a little bit colder. And even some of the spear fishermen that I've spoken to who are out working the reef sites say there are a lot of fluke down near the reef sites. They're just not chomping. Perhaps that's what's kept overall fluking a little bit slower here at the Jersey Shore this summer. So it's a matter of turning on, and we still have plenty of summer left. Of course, I was trying some of the new gulp, and I found salmon red was working best, but you got to try some of this stuff. All the shops like Fisherman's Den carrying these new colored gulp grubs. They are fantastic. Be sure with any fish that you are catching and bringing aboard, check those stomach contents. We had one good keeper that was brought aboard the other day, spit up a little sea robin. Of course, a couple of crabs coming out as well. If you see some crabs, you might want to switch over to a brown gulp, something along those lines. Now, while bottom temperatures, like I said, are a little bit cooler, the stuff up top is still warm. And of course, it's a little bit warmer in the back bay as well. So the ticket then is kind of trying to time the tide and the time when you're fishing as opposed to just the tide itself. You know, the incoming tide in the back bay, closer to the inlet, right along that edge sometimes does well. Joe from Sugarloaf, PA, in fact, checked in with the folks at Avalon Hodgepodge, 24-incher on gulp at Townsend Inlet Reef. Or Townsend Inlet area this week, I should say. And we definitely know there's some fish in the back bay as well. 12-year-old Caitlin Brown here. She was getting it done in Tuckerton. Looks to be somewhere in Great Bay. 26-incher that tipped the scales down to 7 pounds at Scott's Bait and Tackle. So definitely pay attention to the water conditions and move around a little bit. Find those patches. We do find there's blowfish, hot and heavy, throughout Barnegat Bay. 5-year-old William here. He traveled up from Vineland for a blowfish bounty with Grandpa Tom. In fact, talked to Tony Maja this week. He put those spoons away again, got out and did a number on the blowfish while fishing with the Fisherman magazine's John DeBona. Now, if you're looking for some of those blowfish in the Barnegat Bay area, you can always go around the BB, BI. Here they're up around Oyster Creek, and of course the research buoy producing well for those blowfish. Good fluking out of Manasquan and Shark River ports too. Again, you just got to get those tides, the winds and currents. You got to get all those conditions just right. You might be on one of the party boats one day, finding a banner catch with some big fish. The next day, it's a little bit slower. You got to put your time in. I can tell you that Frank at Gabriel Tackle, he's had quite a few good weigh-ins this week, several good weigh-ins that we saw. Brendan Kerwin, for example, had an 8.5 pounder. So someone knows something. Ticket is to stop in the tackle shop as you're gearing up, pick up some of that new gulp, your strips, your squid, but make sure you talk to the folks at the tackle shop to get the skinny on where you can find some of that fluke bite that's out there. Of course, I would definitely recommend looking around the wrecks at this time, and again, closer to the inlet. If you're looking to surf fish this weekend, number one option throughout the Jersey Shore on down through the Delaware coast, definitely kingfish. Smaller hooks, high-low rigs, look at fresh clam or fish bites as well. Number 2 option this time of year is always Fluke. You get those opportunities with Fluke in the wash, with jig heads and gulp. Even try the new Fish Bites Fight Club baits as well. Number 3, of course, cow nose rays. We're getting inundated with cow nose rays in some places. In fact, in some portions of the Jersey Shore, you can go in and the water is so crystal clear you can see schools of these cow nose rays. On the tog front, don't forget we have that 1 tog bag limit back in Jersey. And green crabs in a lot of these shops now, it's just 1 fish, but it gives you that opportunity. Might be worth a look along some of those jetties or groins. If you have groin rocks anywhere in Jersey Shore, if you find some rock groins in the Jersey Shore, certainly let me know. They've taken so many of them out. Of course, if you're dunking some green crab down for a 1 fish tog, you might also get lucky with some sheep's head as well. A couple of sheep's head around, of course, triggers as well. Now keep those metals handy. You're out on those open beaches. We do get reports of Spanish mackerel and bonita here and there popping up all over the place. Definitely an opportunity for you to score in the local surf. Look for some of those birds wheeling and diving, even 1 or 2 birds feeding on top of something. Good indication you might want to throw a medal at that direction for a Spanish mackerel or bonita. And of course, guys trolling for bonita at the ridges and lumps are doing pretty well as well. Quick look at our offshore conditions, but first, let's check in with George, our Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, fishing was a little tough this weekend. I mean, temps were up, high 80s. I was out, the water temperature alone was 86 degrees, so that's going to be real tough to get on some fish. But I went out in the kayak a little bit, and I managed to get in a couple of small bass, a couple of dinks. But here's Rich Bates, who got into a really nice bucket mouth. And he was following the rules Zell Rowland told us a couple weeks ago. Slow it down, soft plastics, and was getting it done. Well, I'm going to get back out and give it another try, see if I can get more than a dink. But you guys stay tuned. For Pennsylvania, this is George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
On top of the bonita that I mentioned before, good reports of mahi, some near shore, some deep, some especially big. John Achille here, he got on the Dreamboat leaderboard this week with a 16-pound bull dolphin. Now, if you're offshore fishing, you're tuna fishing, but you're bringing in some of those big bull dolphin, don't forget to bring them back and weigh them in for that Fisherman Magazine Dreamboat contest. All these tackle shops, Fisherman's Den, throughout New Jersey, up into Staten Island as well. If you're a Fisherman subscriber, you definitely want to bring in some of those fish to weigh in. You've got a 2-fish bag limit on black sea bass. You get a big knucklehead. Make sure you bring that in, weigh it in. You could win a prize with the Fisherman Magazine just for being a subscriber. Now, the offshore forecast midweek from the Baltimore to the Hudson, a little bit of a heave Thursday, 3 to 6. Friday settles down a bit, 3 to 5. Subsides 3 to 4. Saturday and Sunday with 5 to 15 knot winds. So it looks pretty good. But if you're not hearing a lot of radio buzz, not a lot of dockside chatter, there's a good reason for it. You've got the White Marlin Open going on this week out of Ocean City, Maryland. 404 boats registered in that tournament and competing for a $6.1 million purse. I even hear that Michael Jordan, the basketball player, he's got a 70-foot Viking or an 80-foot Viking, I forget which, giant Viking. So the reason for the shutdown and chatter is everybody's keeping everything close to the vest. Excuse me, but there are fish out there, and of course the bluefin action continues at places like the Atlantic Princess. Now, here in New Jersey, as far as the offshore tournaments coming up, after the White Marlin Open is done, you've got the Mid-Atlantic out of Cape May and also Ocean City, Maryland. That's coming up August 18th to 23rd. And then, of course, the folks in Manasquan, the Manasquan River Marlin and Tuna Club, they have their offshore open August 24th through the 31st. Local tournaments inland. You've got the Mike Iaconelli this week. He's in town, in Camden specifically, his 4th annual Celebrity Pro-Am tournament. Now, you can fish with a pro, fish amateur in that tournament out of Camden this week. But if you've got something with the kids, you might want to take the kids out. Wiggins Park near the Battleship, New Jersey. They've got a day of special events. You can also watch the Pro-Am weigh-ins, just like that big Bassmaster tournament. That starts at 1:30. You can find out more information about that at the IkeFoundation.org. Looking for a much better weekend coming up, and those midweek storms are going to be a distant memory. Catch them up this weekend, and we'll see you again next week right here at thefisherman.com.
Win the incredible Steigercraft Evinrude Lowrance Grand Prize Boat Package and more in the Fisherman's 2019 Dream Boat Fishing Challenge. Get the details now at thefisherman.com.